Hello and welcome to my Yu-Gi-Oh channel. Today we're looking at some more reprints, one for each of the main characters of Yu-Gi-Oh Rush Duels, and we're going to be starting off with Yugioh. Cyber Falcon is a wind attribute level 4 machine type with 1400 attack and 1200 defense. A jet-powered hawk that travels at the speed of sound. It's a decent monster because it does have balanced attack and defense, and it's towards the higher levels of level 4 monsters. Highest tend to be about 1500, so it's at least competitive for the time being. Skydragon is meant to support Rook's deck, and it's a wind attribute dragon type level 6 with 1900 attack and 1800 defense. Flying dragon with 4 wings, housing some very dangerous blades. This card is as useless now as it was when it was originally introduced so many years ago within the original series of Yu-Gi-Oh! It being a level 6 and having that stat lineup is not worthwhile. It's not even worth considering. Faithbird is a wind attribute winged beast type level 4 with 1500 attack and 1100 defense. This long-tailed bird blinds its enemies with This is an example of one of the level 4 monsters that was introduced within the original series of Yu-Gi-Oh! And has been translated over to Yu-Gi-Oh! Rush Duels. It has the higher level attack points for a level 4 monster, and definitely for the time being is competitive, especially for a winged beast. Romance Pick is a light attribute psychic type level 1 with 500 attack and 0 defense. The requirement: if your life points are lower than your opponent's, you can pay 500 life points, and the effect is to send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard, and if there is a psychic type monster among them, you can choose one psychic type monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. This puts you at quite a significant disadvantage. I mean, you can only use its effect if you've got lower life points than your opponent. I know it can be as little as maybe 100 life points difference, or even 50 if they ever introduce that as part of the attack mechanic, but if you're at the lower end, you're more likely to be defeated by the opponent. You're also banking on what you're actually going to send from the top 3 cards of the deck to the graveyard, considering they might not be psychic type monsters if you're splashing in mixtures of different types, or you might get a psychic monster that you don't want in the graveyard, or you might get a mixture of spell and trap cards, in which case you get none of the psychic type monsters necessary to use the recovery effect of this card. Subsequently, also when it's in attack mode to use its effect, it's putting itself in a very dangerous position, and your opponent is just going to target this card to do as much damage as possible. Epic Demon's Rock is a normal trap card with the requirement: when your opponent normal summons a monster, send 2 monsters that are fiend type from your hand to the graveyard. The effect is destroy all face-up monsters that are level 8 or lower on the field. This has got quite high cost, high reward status to it. Yes, you are able to send 2 monsters from your field, which are fiend types, from the hand to the graveyard to wipe out all face-up monsters, but if they happen to be over level 8, then they're immune to this destruction effect, and they might have their own immunities to trap cards, such as some of the maximum monsters, or even some intrinsically normal summon monsters as well. Some of the tribute summon monsters will have this condition to it as well. So this means it can be avoided, or you might, and you have to get rid of 3 cards in order to use this effect. The 2 fiend type monsters, which you already have to have in the hand, and this as the trap card. It might not be useful depending on the situation. Peacock Hytron is a light attribute Cyverse type level 5 with 1600 attack and 100 defense. The requirement: if you control no other monsters and have Femtron in your graveyard, the effect is to send this card you control to the graveyard and draw 2 cards. Then summon the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard. I don't mind the effect of this card because actually you're replacing this to draw 2 cards, but you're also ditching 2 cards from off your deck to the graveyard. If they've got graveyard based effects, depending on what you've sent, that might be of some benefit to you. The downside is you do need to have Femtron in your graveyard, and you can't have any other monsters controlled. That means you are leaving yourself wide open to direct attacks. The other problem is this being a level 5 means you are going to have to tribute summon this card first to trigger off that effect, which can be annoying to say the least. And the final example is Mythic Sword Surprise Attack. This is a normal trap card with the requirement: when your opponent's monster declares an attack on a face-up monster you control, must be a worm type, you can activate by sending 1 monster that's a level 6 or lower worm type from your hand to the graveyard. Effect: until the end of the turn, the attacking monster loses attack equal to the attack of the monster sent to the graveyard by this effect's requirement. I think this is a decent card, and it's similar to Mini Guts, which is a Yu-Gi-Oh! Zeal trap card. The whole purpose of this is if an opponent's monster attacks a worm type monster, you can just send one of your level 6 or lower worms from the hand to the graveyard, and then your opponent's monster loses that many attack points. It's almost guaranteeing that you're going to be able to defeat your opponent's monster. The only exceptions to that might be if your monsters are immune to being destroyed by battle, or if they've got an effect which actually can negate spell or trap cards, or put themselves in a situation where they can wipe out your monster without ever having to go into the battle phase. Remember, this can only be activated during the battle phase as well, so if they've got something like a Mystical Space Typhoon or any other spell or trap destruction effects, they can use those well ahead of ever being able to activate this. Overall, which is your favourite card out of this set? To me, out of the 7, it's definitely this card, because I think, even though it's specific to worm types, it's very useful and it can devastate your opponent if they're not on their guard. If you enjoy my content, please make sure to watch the video at the end screen to help support my channel. Thank you.